guest speaker today. I'm very, very excited about our next speaker. We have Rias Attar with us. He's going to talk to us about why RPA and examples of successful RPA implementation that have saved companies millions of dollars. A very practical, pointed approach to RPA. And Rias is a business strategy, a transformation expert, an operational excellence leader, and project and change management leader. He is a book author and an industry award winner, recognized for his ability to strategize business architecture, champion continuous improvement efforts, and deliver challenging cross-functional programs while leading and inspiring winning teams. He is the former VP of Transformation at Caesars Entertainment, and currently he's the president of his own business consultants called Say A+. Rias, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. I know that I'm going to have the best theoretical and most important practical approach to all that's going on with RPA and intelligent automation. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Jose. All right. I take it that you guys can hear me. Thank you again for joining this this session. So I want to start by going back to the basics, right? You know, we hear about RPAs and we hear it's a new thing that's coming, and RPA actually is an interesting tool, an interesting solution that you can utilize, because it kind of combines the people, process, technology, data elements all together in this kind of tool that you can use. When I got introduced to RPA initially, I was a bit skeptical. It's like, oh, okay, now what does this do for us, and so on and so forth. So I want to tell you a little bit about my journey with RPA and why we started doing it, and some of the examples, some real examples that actually saved us millions of dollars. I actually put that in my book that I published a couple of months ago called Change to Win. RPA is one example of change. You are changing something. You are moving from one condition to another using a certain tool. So it's a change, but it's a change to win. We want to increase value. We want to reduce costs. We want to increase revenue. Whatever it is that we're trying to do is a change. It's a change to add value, a change to win. Feel free to reach out to me or just get a copy of this book. I'm sure that you'll find it helpful. So I want to start with this quote by Alvin Toffler. Alvin said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. You see, the thing is, sometimes we get so comfortable with what we are, what we know, and then we get so complacent. It's like, okay, now we know it all, so we're comfortable. So this is kind of where, you know, we probably sometimes need to get out of that comfort zone, and this is kind of what happened to me when I got, you know, introduced to RPA, also as other tools that I have seen, because like every day we get certain people to tell us about certain solutions, but RPA was like one of those, like, okay, well, I've done it good with this specific tool. Why do I need to use RPA? So I kind of started moving from this comfort zone where I, you know, felt like familiar and easy and peaceful with what I have, to this kind of danger zone. It's like, wait a second, it's unfamiliar. I feel exposed and stressed because it's something new. But as soon as I kind of get into this like learning zone, I started to see the opportunity. I got excited, and then I now kind of re-benchmarked, and that became like my new threshold, right? And then I kind of realized the growth zone, and this is kind of where it's like, all right, wait a second, like we were able to do this and this and this. Let's scale this and expand to other areas of the business. So I want to start with this because like data is power, and RPA is all about data. But I want to kind of give it a couple of, you know, maybe 5 minutes or so just to talk about data and artificial intelligence. So as you probably know, data has several forms. You know, it actually starts with just basic raw data, which is just facts, numbers, characters. We then kind of put this data together and aggregate this data and that kind of moves into information. So the data tells us something. So it's the information becomes an aggregation. The data is being processed and validated. Then when we look at this information, the human beings usually will just go and say, okay, now I understand what this data and information is telling me about, and giving me some ideas and the facts, right? And that kind of moves into a wisdom where now I can make a decision, a sound decision about certain thing using this data, because that data moved from like very raw to like creating a knowledge and now a decision and wisdom. So however, when we have like now in this time, we have so much data, and Hubert Simon once said, wealth, the explosion of data, the data kind of exploded. So he said once, wealth of information creates a poverty of attention, because now we have so much information, we don't know what to do with it, and that's kind of where artificial intelligence come in place. Until recently, really, I mean, the wisdom that we talked about was uniquely attached to humans. But now with the advancement of machine learning and AI, machines have been able to kind of catch up and reach that kind of intelligence level where actually the machine by themselves can mimic the human ability to make a sound decision and simulate that human intelligence. So and when we talk about AI, there are also like several levels of AI. I mean, the basic formation of artificial intelligence is just basic what if algorithm. I mean, it's very basic. Remember, even Excel, I mean, you kind of program the machine to say, if you see this number or this fact or this color, do this. And then you put that in the sheet or in a program or whatever, and the machine will just do it based on what I tell that machine or what I program the machine. It's just a what if. It's very, very basic. The next level is a BI. A BI is processing and aggregating the facts and information and produce some sort of like reports or dashboards that utilize those facts and numbers. The next level will be the machine learning, where the machine starts to kind of realize certain trends and come back to you with some facts. And it's like, okay, well, I've seen this, I've seen those anomalies or things that are certain trends, and I want to alert you that this is happening, and so on and so forth. And then the next level is the cognitive automation. It's the highest level of artificial intelligence, where the machine by itself will be able to process information, make decisions, and sometimes take actions, and then kind of learns and adapt as it grows. So when we talk about RPA is like that level of artificial intelligence. In my experience, I've used RPAs very effectively when I found that the processes that I apply RPA at are highly manual, rule-based, and repetitive. So that's kind of one element where RPA can be unbelievably powerful. The other element here is we used RPA to connect kind of a pseudo API, kind of connect between legacy and cloud, or certain legacy systems or different types of systems that do not interact with each other. RPA is unbelievably powerful in that space because it can act as a human being. You can program it and you can build it in a way that it, like as an employee or as a person would have done, to log off, log in, take information from here, put it there. I will explain this to you in the examples in the next few slides. So I want to start by, okay, so let's say you heard my presentation, you saw my presentation today. It's like, okay, I want to do it. So how should I do this? Where should it start? The RPA is basically bots, like robots. And when you build the RPAs, it's like any software. You have to, like, it's an idea, you assess, and then design, build, test, deploy, basically. And this is kind of what I put here on the slide. It's just another software. that you can initiate and build and deploy in your organization. So it's kind of very simple to kind of understand the cycle of the bot. The way kind of it works is in the organization. Usually, what you have to make a few decisions. So because at the beginning you get that RPA requests, you assess, you do the process assessment, you build the business case, the feasibility of those RPAs, you get like leadership sign off, and so on and so forth, and you start building and developing that RPA. So that's kind of the first element, which is like, okay, I realize the opportunity, I have the the will, and now I want to develop. The next decision point here that you need to make is, okay, where should I put this RPA? And normally you will have to put it in the cloud. So it depends on like your environment, which environment you have. You can probably choose a cloud system that you can put that RPA at. The next decision point is like, okay, so what triggers that RPA? It's a software, so it's triggered based on certain elements. So it can be either scheduled, like every day at 6 o'clock a.m. run, and that RPA will just do something, right, based on what you have built. Or you can have it as automatically triggered. So you can say the RPA will get triggered automatically if something happened. If something happened, no matter what, you can say if the stock reached certain level, if the stock price reached a certain level, if a news did this, if a system reacted this way, if the electricity level reached, whatever it is, that automatic trigger that trigger that automatically happen, you can have the RPA to initiate. Then you have to kind of have another decision point, which is the input. So where the RPA is getting the information from. So this is like endless. Again, the RPA, think about it as a human being. You tell that human being to do certain things, and then that person kind of does it every day, or whenever you want. So where the files or the inputs are coming from? Is it like a flat file, Excel? Is it PDF? Is it a website? Is it an application? Where it is that the computer, that the machine can go and bring it. And then the action, the action will be, okay, well, here is the RPA, and then you may want to throw some exceptions. You will do everything, but if you see this, do that. So again, it's part of, like, it's as if you think you work with any software, but the RPA is that next level up. So kind of this is what we did or those are like the decision points that we had to go through when we developed our RPA. So I'm gonna talk to you about a few examples that actually saved us a few millions of dollars in the RPA space. So one of them was, and some of you who maybe know the casino industry. The casino industry kind of, it's like 5 industries in one. We have hotels, we have retail, we have gaming, we have convention, we have food, we have beverage, all of this plus, right? We offer everything. So the thing is, like, and because of the scale, when you talk about like millions of people visiting your properties every day, if you have like 40, 50 properties and you have many people, so you have many areas that could leak from a productivity perspective or from a efficiency perspective. And this is kind of where you can find many areas to improve your business, and RPA came to the rescue for us a few times. I will give you first example here is in the marketing space. So when we send offers to customers, we have customers who spend $50 a day at our properties, eating, dining, gambling, whatever it is that they are using the money for. Or we have people who spend $1 million a day, right? So I mean, and then there, or more, and then there's like the spectrum between those two numbers. So when we want to send offers to those people, and we want to send personalized offers, you don't want to send like a $10,000 gift or promotion to $100 worth customer. So when we send like mail or email offers, we have to be very careful of how we send it and who we send it. So we had a whole department that what the whole thing they do was just to validate the offers, because honestly for us it's worth it. Because if you put like 10 people or 15 people just validating the offer, it pays their salary in a few months. Because if one error, we gave like tens of thousands of dollars offer to $100 worth customer, it would not really work well for us. So the RPA, so what we did, we had people actually go there and validate every offer. Like they would actually look at every PDF before it gets printed of that postcard being sent, or the email being sent to specific people or to people. And we had 50 million people in our database. So just imagine how many mail and email we had to prove. So what we did, we built this RPA to prove those offers. So think about it this way. I put the flow chart here, but the RPA would actually log in one system, say, okay, this is the email, and then logs into the what we call, the hotel system or the gaming system, and say, okay, this is the worth of this customer, and then this is the PDF that you said, okay, you're saying $10,000, but here the worth is like $50. So boom, it rejects it instead of like a human doing this. Or the PDF is saying this person's name is this, but in the database it's saying that the name is this, so no, I will reject it, and I will notify the user, whatever. So basically this is what he did. I mean, the RPA was a bot that would just validate, and again, like opens the PDF, open one system, figure out this information, open the other system, put the password and username and whatever, check out the put the certain like customer information, figure out the worth of that customer based on our database, and then go back and match with a specific offer that we had. So that was extremely powerful. We were able, like the bot will do it in minutes or or so, and imagine like humans doing this for hundreds and millions of emails and direct mail, versus like the bot doing this like split second, kind of open, check, put everything, double check on the worth, and then go back and validate. So that's like one of the examples we used in the marketing space. The other example I wanna tell you about was in the hotel space. So in the hotel space, sometimes we don't use direct sales. So sometimes people do not just call our front desk, or they just go to our website and book a room. Sometimes they use what we say third party companies like Expedia, like Booking. Many of us, like I use Expedia because I can do everything there, and then they give me points and whatever. And honestly, most of the time when I check their rates and the hotel rates that I want to go to, usually it's about the same. So I usually just go to Expedia. But the thing is, sometimes Expedia and the interconnection between Expedia system and the hotel system may not be always correct. So sometimes the Expedia rates would show, for example, $100 or $50, but the hotel rates that is changing every second or every minute, they may say $300 or $250. So we use the RPAs to validate the information between our third-party companies that we use, like Expedia and Booking, and then our systems. And our systems were, again, like fairly old systems from a hotel management perspective. So it's not always like, let's say Expedia systems may be like advanced, but our systems were like very old. So it was, the RPA kind of was able to link or validate this information between like a very old, like a DOS, like a AS400 kind of a system, and like a cloud system like Expedia, and kind of again be that validation point. So we did that for hotel. For retail, we launched Microsoft Dynamics across the retail space at our organization a year and a half ago or so. And the difficult element was we wanted to create purchase orders and link those purchase orders with another system, which is Ariba, and then send those orders to vendors. So that's like one element, which is the PO creation. And then we were doing this manually, but the RPAs helped us to automate this. And it's funny because the system kind of learns. So it starts to kind of automatically generate and like avoid certain elements that that used to cause us some issues. The other thing was new items creation, because again, like when we have like 50, 60 properties and you have like hundreds and thousands of items in your retail space, multiply by those number of properties. Like when you create a new item and you want to assign that item to specific property or to send it to specific property, is sometimes a little bit time consuming. So the RPAs helped us with this element, and then the financial element from the back end as well, not only the front end but also the back end. So we did that in the retail space. The next example I wanna tell you about was centralized scheduling. So when you have employees coming every day to work, and they're clocking in, clocking out, and you have again like tens of thousands of people coming every day, for 365 days per year, sometimes things do not really get captured correctly, because some people get sick, the 11th hour. So, or they, clock in and they leave because for any reason, or they clock in at a certain time, but the system did not capture for any reason what happened. So like when we were like scheduling people to come in, so the schedule would say something, but the actual read from the ADP or the clock or whatever system that we're using, it's showing something else, because we scheduled this person, but this person did not show up. This person was supposed to come at 8, but then they came at 8:15, or they came at 10, or whatever. So sometimes, with the scheduling and the actual, and then which one you have to pay, you pay the actual one, but sometimes there are some reasons why that change happened. So the RPA helped us with validation and exceptions, because again, like when you build exceptions in the system, the RPAs will be able to learn those exceptions and then again go back and alert you of like, hey, is this correct? Is this true? And so on and so forth. The next one here is about HR. So in the HR space, I think what we used RPA for was to again like validate the offers and the information between 3 different systems, between our own system, between our third-party system, which was Taleo, between our hotel management system, HCM system, and the report that goes to the HR leader and the senior management team, and that validation was very, very critical. So that's basically, I just gave you some examples, some other examples in the IT space. We were able again to leverage the connection between legacy systems and cloud, where APIs were not able to kind of always, get into those elements. So that's just kind of where we leverage RPA for. Now, when we talk about RPA, I just want you to be aware that there will always be support and maintenance required. It's not always like a magic bullet that you think it will just always operate in a certain way. It needs to be maintained. So I want to kind of give you a high level of like what the type of support you may want to consider when you do RPAs, and what type of maintenance elements that you may want to consider. So from a support perspective, there is like a monitoring aspect that you need to monitor the platform itself and the process. So the platform where the RPA, or what the RPA platform is all about, and then the process within of those RPAs. You can build an alerting system that could be automatic or generated based on certain criterias that are based on like system or process or something, or errors, or you have like manual alert that the people actually can raise. Because maybe the business changed, or the criteria changed, or the performance reached a level that we need to go back and revisit those RPAs or something like that, right? And then you have to figure out like what other change requests that you need to always, as again, like do some support on, which is like the whole function changed, or there are some errors, or the capacity reaches maximum, or maybe this bot is kind of doesn't make sense anymore, so you want to sunset this bot and build another one. So those are some of the support elements that we always had a team kind of helping with the support. And from a maintenance perspective, I think the number one will be the environment change. As most of you know, for example, if you're like Office 365 or any like ERP system, whatever, there's sometimes like they used to do like monthly batch upgrades and software upgrades. I think now they're doing quarterly, most of them, but sometimes they will do like monthly, sometimes even more frequent. So sometimes when those upgrades happen, the bot, the environment where the bot work in changes, and then starts to produce errors, or the result that they produce may not be accurate. So you want to kind of pay attention to this. Because there will be upgrades and batches, and those are things that you may want to consider. There were things like, sometimes we tell the bot to go to a certain website, to a certain screen, and then the website changes, or the screen changed, or something like this. So you always want to go back and kind of maintain and make sure everything is clear, because you put it in a certain state and then something happens along the way. So you want to make sure that you have a proper maintenance. And then of course there is the performance maintenance. Again, maybe the cloud environment that we have the bot on has a certain either capacity or speed limit or something. So we want to kind of make sure that it is suitable for that working environment for that bot. So I guess the key takeaways from my presentation is, like, honestly, from my perspective, I have had a great experience with RPAs. If you do them right, it's a software at the end of the day. It's a garbage in, garbage out. If you do not have the proper solution, if you do not have the proper people that you're working with, if you don't have validation and monitoring, you will not really have a good experience in RPA, as with any other software. My recommendation also is, the RPA is basically taking a certain process and automate it. So sometimes the process that a human being would do may be different from what a machine would do. So you may want sometimes to revalidate or re-engineer a certain process, or refactor sometimes a certain solution based on, again, like what's going on. But I advise you, before you just jump and just do everything in the RPA space, just revalidate your process. Make sure you have a good partner you're working with, one of the best in the industry, because again, like when you need like support and maintenance, all those people will come to the rescue. And then don't forget about the people, because at the same time, RPA is, it's a process, it's a technology utilizing data, but make sure also you do not forget the people, the audience, the stakeholders that you work with to kick off RPA, maintain RPA, and kind of also the seniors who actually see and maybe just bring to their attention, oh, this is what we have done, maybe we can do it somewhere else, and maybe we can scale it even more, or so on and so forth. So again, most of this and other exciting stuff I talk about in my book, so feel free to check it out on Amazon or Apple or other book retailers. So I'm hoping that what I presented today would inspire people about technology and artificial intelligence, and would allow you guys to kind of also, again, like learn from those examples and experiences, and see how maybe you can apply to your own environment. Again, like when you introduce a new element, you will have a lot of resistance in your organization. So what you can probably do is just to do a pilot. Start with like something, and make sure that you pick a stakeholder, a sponsor who is willing to take a little risk, but also would probably be able to bank the most from the RPA. So when you have a good partner or a sponsor that you can work with to build and implement RPA with, they will be a great advocate for you. when you grow your business, or when you grow your RPA usage, right? So so I think this is kind of, you know, the end of my presentation today. I'm open for questions, Jose, if you would like. I don't know. I don't think I see in the chat, in my chat, but it's feel free to ask any questions the audience have had for me.
Very well, Rias. Always great to see your very practical approach to intelligent automation. And I have a couple of general questions that came up here that I want to make sure that I assume it's some people who logged in a little bit later in the session. Jim and Mattia, you have questions about the recordings of the sessions. Again, remind everyone that you, as one of the 2,000 plus registered participants in the conference, will have full access to the recordings of all sessions. Next week, we'll be sending out an email with the link and password for that. So Jim and Mattia, that's the answer for you. And Robert, Robert was trying to send something through the chat. And Robert, I apologize. You can only send things through the question box, and the chat doesn't work from the audience back to us. So if you have any comments or any questions, go ahead and use the questions box on the right-hand side of the GoToWebinar interface, and then you can submit your questions right now for Rias. And as we have a few minutes here to talk about, you know, anything that's important for you in your context. How do the concepts and applications that Rias discuss here apply to your context? Don't be shy. Ask the question. I'm going to be monitoring all of the questions that come in, and make it very contextual. Make it sure that it adds value to your place of work, to your own personal and professional experience. And don't worry if you're a novice or if you're an expert. Ask the questions that are meaningful to you. So Rias, tell us a little bit, just a little to set the stage further. What was this journey like at a place like Caesars? Such a diversified place, as you said. You know, people don't realize how many businesses you have within that business, and you talked about that. There's a casino, there's retail, there is all sorts of things going on there in entertainment. And what was the journey like? You know, how long does it take for RPA implementation to get traction, if you will?
Yeah, good question, Jose. We started with like one RPA because, again, we wanted to test it. We weren't sure what that was a couple of years ago when we started it. It was something new. I mean, now it's like more popular, but like 2 years ago when we started doing RPAs, it's like, okay, well, what is this RPA is all about? Is it like a robot? Like literally, I have had senior leaders in the senior leadership team ask me, is it like a real robot that actually does something? And I was like, it's just a software that acts like a robot. So there's a little bit of a like education that you have to do. So you have to educate, you have to get the buy-ins, and that's not easy. It's part of change, right? So change management is big here. And then when you go to the organization and you want to apply it in a certain area, you want to have a good sponsor who's willing to let go a certain systems or processes that they've had for many years. So some people are big advocates for change, so you want to kind of work with those people because they would kind of help you. They would give you this type of environment where you actually can succeed, because they'll give you all the resources you need, the attention you need. So you go and pilot. We did a pilot for the RPA at a couple of areas, and then when we saw the results, they became our best allies, and they started to be the biggest advocates. And they started talking to other leaders in the company that, hey, we've used this system by, you know, this department, our continuous improvement department helped us with you know, this specific RPA. We didn't know what it was about, and now we saved millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were able to reach our budget and use the money somewhere else, or apply it to the bottom line.
Very well. You know, the RPA vendors hate when I say this, but when we first started experimenting with RPA, there are a lot of people who were very excited about using RPA, but they're using RPA. They're spending $15,000 on a robot to solve a $5,000 problem, and of course that's not the right thing to do, you know. And I'm curious about, in your case, how did you go about identifying the right opportunities where RPA would be really create significant value versus being just a novelty that we can experiment with?
Yes, great question, Jose. I think the it was a little bit difficult for me at the beginning because I wanted to understand what RPA was all about. So I was like, okay, what are the usage? And then again, like there's an excitement that happens at the beginning when you apply a system or a new system or something. But I felt RPA, or I feel that RPA would be like most useful when the processes that you're trying to replace are very manual and you have like people like manually doing something. They are rule based, that you can apply a certain rule to that. So I have to go to the specific website, or I have to go to the specific system. I have to put my username and password. I have to pick this. I have to go to this specific screen, hit F1, shift F4, whatever, and then get that specific number. And then now go to the specific system and then apply that specific number, and then get this fact, which is $1, and then go to the third system and validate that this dollar makes sense, and then go to the website. And so you see what I'm saying? So it is like a rule based and repetitive. Like, so you're doing this for hundreds of thousands of times per day, and you have like a team of, I don't know, tens and hundreds of people doing this. You can replace that with one bot. If you can do this right. Or when you are trying to again get one information from a very old legacy system, a cloud system, and then based on the information make a certain decision about specific rate or a specific behavior or opening or closing or whatever it is that you want to do. So those are like the areas that kind of triggered the kind of where we can use it. But again, that came with experience because we didn't know what RPA was capable for. We tried something, and honestly, it's not every RPA is successful. We had some failures. Nothing is perfect. And to your point earlier, I mean, sometimes you just may want to do things very easy, and so maybe you don't need to kill a mosquito with a bazooka. You know, sometimes you just prick, you kill a mosquito, right?
That's right. And there's some great questions coming in here, and I want to make sure I get to all of them. Keep your questions coming. I'm going to get to as many of them as possible. So let's let Robert Bonomo has a follow-up on this. So what is the learning curve like for the internal staff? I don't assume that you had a whole bunch of data scientists who are just sitting there ready, and process people who are just sitting there ready to deploy RPA on day one. So, you know, you come in, you know, we're gonna look into RPA. It's not a hardware robot, it's a software robot. So learning number one. And then people start learning that, wow, this thing can automate across applications. It's kind of interesting. And then how, beyond yourself as a leader, Rias, what was the learning curve like for the internal staff?
Well, some people, so it depends on who we're talking about from a stakeholder perspective. Some people are very skeptical. Of course, resistance always is the case at the beginning. But some people feel the threat as well. You know, when we talk about RPAs and what they do and whatever. But from a stakeholder perspective, and specifically leaders who are trying to improve their businesses, whatever, the learning curve is so. Let me separate the sponsors from the users. The sponsors, again,
Yeah, and Rias, to be clear here, I think this question is not on the sponsor side, it's just on the user side. They're curious about how did you go, like, did you have some person in your group who like caught onto it and wanted to do it? What from the internal capability building is what I think the question is focused on.
Sounds good. So thank you for the clarification. Yes, so we dedicated a couple of people, a couple of directors to kind of shepherd the efforts internally, because the third party or the software implementer, you know, the RPA companies that we deal with, they can bring the solution, but they need some sort of like internal resource to direct them and get them what they need from the company. What we did, we actually outsourced the Autobot build and support and maintenance to the third party. But my plan was to potentially replace the third-party support and maintenance over time. We didn't have the luxury to do this because we had other priorities at that time. But if I had to do it differently, I would probably, after like a few months, I would invest in people who actually can develop the bot internally using the platforms and make sure that the support and maintenance is done internally. I did have a couple of people again just who were shepherding the efforts, and they were like leading the efforts internally to ensure that it's getting traction, it's getting the approvals, it's getting the everything we need. But if I want to do it differently, I would probably invest internally, because again, like with all due respect to all the RPA implementers and softwares, and the system is one thing, but the support and maintenance can be costly. So it's as with any other things. I mean, you outsource something at the beginning, and then when you learn, you kind of can bring it internally. So we did not reach the phase where we were actually building bots internally and supporting them internally, but that would have been like the preferable solution if you come to me.
Understand that helps a lot. Understand the setting. And Jim Walker here has a question about, if you had to guess how many hours annually are required for each automation. I think that people are looking for kind of order of magnitude. What, you know, and I know that there's a very wide range based on the type of applications you're automating, but for kind of an average application that you used, how long does it take to get something like that up and running?
Well, that's a quite difficult question, because I mean, are you talking about like getting the RPA company approved, paid in Ariba, and paying them?
Yeah,
And
that's true. No, I don't think so. Let's narrow the focus a bit. I think it's more like, oh, I have an idea, I have an RPA vendor already that I'm working with, and I have someone internally who's going to partner with the RPA vendor, and we're going to automate this function here in retail that seems like, kind of on average, something that looks like an average application that you did. Order of magnitude, are we talking hours, weeks, months? What does it look like to implement?
So if you have the RPA vendor already, and if you have the platform selected already, and if you have the software implementer, or the company that builds the RPA for you, then to your point, it really depends. Some of those RPAs are quite simple. Like, for example, the RPA that we did for HR was quite simple. It took us maybe less than a week to have it like ready and published and like running. And some RPAs are extremely difficult. I mean, like but it's not like months. I mean, because it's like a software, and the more resources you add to it, the faster usually, until you reach that law of diminishing return, whatever. But usually, I would say 1 week to 4 weeks maximum for any RPA. And then I'm talking again, like if you have the vendor ready, if you have the system ready, but also if your process is proper, because sometimes you may want to go back and re-engineer or refactor something to enable it to allow RPA to work, because sometimes RPAs are a little bit different from people. So sometimes you may go back and look at that process, like, why we do this way in the first place? We need to kind of redo the whole process, and then we go and bring the RPA. So and then the re-engineering process could take you weeks, right? So I don't know, but like if you have everything ready, the RPA is, I would say days to like maybe a few weeks maximum for the again, remember the cycle that I talked about, which is the need assessment, design, build, test, deploy. So kind of the same thing. So you can do this all in like a week, or it can be like 4 weeks, again, depending on the availability of sponsors and people and the process itself.
Yeah, I love that answer, because it's such a practical answer, right? Technology is so cool. You bring it in often in different parts of the business, and when you look into the business now, it's not the technology, it's just that you are now taking a comprehensive look at a process that's all messed up, and you do not want to automate that. You want to fix it before you automate. And that's often is where we spend a lot of our time, isn't it? Just getting people aligned and making sure that we have the right process to automate.
I cannot tell you how many times we would go and try to redesign or fix a process. Like, why do we have this in the first place? Get it out. Let's find something else, right? So it's just because it's been there for like 30 years. It's like, yes, but the environment changed. Why do this in the first place, right? So sometimes you come across those, yeah.
That's right. Always remember the rules of eliminating, reducing, and only then automating. Very good. Rias, we're out of time. This time goes by fast when you're having fun. It's always fun to be with you and learn from a real practitioner. Your experience cross industry is fantastic, and you understand deeply the business side and the tech and the technology side application. And we are very grateful to have you share your expertise with us.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rias Attar. Always great to chat with Rias about what's going on in the world of excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformation. Tremendous experience and insights. Check out his book. He captures a lot of that on his book, and very great way of starting our day together. We're going to be wrapping up the session, and at the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by two experts on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and RPA. In the session, we'll be pushing RPA to the next level with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And after that session, I'm going to have a session with you on how great enduring organizations accelerate excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformation in times of uncertainty and rapid change. So 2 next sessions coming up. I will see you back at the top of the hour with Dr. Jackson and Brian Eckel, who are going to be discussing with us the mix of RPA, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. See you soon.